A better Nigeria, is it a myth or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria? Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only reason for being an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju.
Evening and welcome to another interesting episode of Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. My name is Lois and I'm here in the studio with Joseph and Joanne.
Hi, Skiffy.
You're welcome. And of course, Dr. Reju, the Chief Resource Person of the Center for Transformational Leadership, CTL JOS. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Lois. Good to see you, Joseph and Joanne.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So last time we talked about the multi-talented youths and career choice. If you missed out on that episode, please check out our website at answerswithdrreju.org to stream on all our previous. Our topic today is reclaiming the African identity. Now, Africa had a life before colonization, but the present generation of Africa seems to know the post-colonization Africa only. The African identity has been thrown away in the name of civilization, and we see everything African to be inferior to that of the West. Our diverse cultures, numerous languages, community, life, and other core values are gradually losing relevance. Sir, what's your take on this?
That's a mouthful. Well, you just painted the reality. It's the truth. Yeah, people are what they are taught, either formally or informally, and we learn more, in the informal sense. So there is a whole generation that they were never, taken through any kind of intentional orientation in terms of our history. So what is out there is that, for example, if you speak in your dialect, you are uncouth. If you greet in a certain way that is consistent, that is reflective of your culture, you are outdated. So that's really where we are. So I don't know how you guys want to proceed with this topic. So you've just described it, because we're losing everything in the name of, in the West they can talk about globalization, that the world has become smaller. But I think for Africa, we can't. If you talk about globalization, we're just sort of echoing what other people are saying. For us, it's actually westernization.
Who is to blame?
Well, maybe I'm to blame. Maybe I'm one of those that's supposed to be blamed, because have I been intentional in trying to ensure that people don't lose touch with their African identity? I know I've done a bit, but maybe I've not done enough, and it's true, we're losing it. It's true. Who's to blame? In Africa, maybe that will give me an opportunity to say something that's very African, because one of the things that is very unique with Africa is our, ingrained in our culture is the value of learning. And that's where we have a lot of African idioms, African sayings. So when you ask who is to blame, what merely came up in my head is an African saying that the fish starts getting rotten from the head.
Okay.
So once you say that tells you straight away that the head, the leader, parents are to blame. Parents, policymakers, they are to blame. Because where we sit here today in this studio, I don't think we should be, our educational system, for instance, should still be the way it is. Something should have sort of been tweaked to reflect really who we are.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Considering the recent trends as regards the dethronement of the Emir of Kano, some weeks back, a sitting governor was talking down on a traditional ruler. And I went to check the history. I discovered that there was an Oba of Benin that was dethroned by the Western government, then the government of Britain, because he wasn't dancing to their tune. Now, I discovered that trend continued. Anywhere someone is beginning, a traditionalist is beginning to have a certain influence that is against the government of the day, they kind of upset the whole system. So I've been thinking about it and how every structure, everything that gives Africa identity, there's a shaking on the foundation.
Let me try and separate issues here. The way in colonial days, it's understandable if the colonial powers try to, exert authority over traditional rulers. That agenda is clearly stated because the strength then of what they are trying to, take over was the traditional system. So for them to be at loggerheads is quite understandable. But over the years, one of the casualties of the colonial era is our traditional system, right? But have we done anything to make sure that it has any kind of relevance? No, because today, the traditional system, I don't see where they really occupy in our political structure. They are, put it mildly, straight away. They don't have any role that they play. It's just sort of, maybe there is a ethnic crisis somewhere. The president calls them, the governor calls them and tell them, talk to your people. They don't have any kind of authority. Because pre-colonial days, they were the main authority. They're the one that they own the land. They're the one that collect land, or they were the government.
Yes.
So, but I don't want, young people out there to, anytime the elite in Nigeria, because the deposed emir is not in the shape of previous emirs. This is a guy that's been in the corporate Nigeria. He's a highly opinionated kind of person. So we cannot absolve him of any kind of political leanings. And Obas, emirs, OBs are not supposed to have any kind of political leaning. He has been very political, and I'm using the opportunity to let, young ones out there know this reality. Anytime the elite seems to come out and it's as if they have a crisis, please don't queue behind any one of them. They are both your enemies. And that's what they are trying to do, is what they learned from the British. It's called divide and rule. Because you can't even imagine where this story will end. Ganduje and Sanusi will solve their problem at a time when Nigerians were killing each other in this country. There was a video that came out when Abacha and Abiola were laughing on the sofa. So Nigerians should be wise. It's the naivety. So nobody should talk for Sanusi, especially the young ones. And I just did a road trip, across this, the southern part of Nigeria. The level of neglect and poverty. No one who has ever been in any kind of position of authority, should earn the respect of any Nigerian. So nobody should be pro Sanusi. Don't hate Sanusi. Don't like Sanusi because you hate, Ganduje. And don't love Ganduje because you are deceived to believe that Sanusi is one truthful kind of person. This is a guy who told a blatant lie in this country that $20 billion was missing just to get somebody out of power. So Nigerians shouldn't be deceived they do it all the time. So let's put that aside. And that to say that Obas, Obis, emirs, is not new in history. But it's understandable during, the colonial era. But today, who is really an Oba? What is the, what influence? Who owns the land? Is the political government, not so the traditional system has been decimated. It's just ceremonial. It's just ceremonial. They might wield some influence here and there if you have money, if you have, look at the Oni of Ife. He's able to do some social work or some community development. That's because of his own personal kind of money. Because Obas now, they're on payroll. Emirs are on payroll of the government. And he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So what we should be talking about is what role should the traditional system be playing, in our political, social kind of life, economic kind of life. Because at the time, if you farm, the Oba, the king in your, in that domain owns a certain percentage of your profit. But is that the same thing now? No. So the Sanusi Ganduje thing shouldn't even come when we are talking about African culture. It's just political.
Oh, okay, sir. So we know for sure that Africa is very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of African traditions, religion, tribes, and all. There's this saying that there's unity in diversity.
Okay.
So how much do you believe in that? And how has it really helped or destroyed Africa over the years?
I've always believed that, that there is no unity if there is no diversity. If there's no diversity, all you have is uniformity. Unity only makes sense when there's diversity. So, but you'll be able to really maximize the benefit of that unity when you recognize the uniqueness of the diverse parts. So Africa is very rich in culture, which we know, and it's not just culture. I remember a few years ago, I did a trip to the Caribbean islands, and they are very rich in terms of herbs. I'm very sure the rampaging coronavirus, right? If we had committed enough resources and attention to research, the cure is here. You guys, maybe I've told the story on this program before. There's a friend of mine, who is a sickler. There's a medication that he's using that works magic. That herb is found in Cross River State, but it is produced from California or Oklahoma. But the herb, so they took it from here, no royalty paid, nothing. So the last time I listened to an interview by the DG of NAFDAC, and they asked her, what is the future of healthcare? And with a very broad smile on her face, she said she's actually now having a committee of herbalists and pharmaceutical, practitioners she's so hopeful. You see, for me, that's not new. When I was growing up, malaria was it was a monthly affair for me, right? And I react to any of this if I take tonic, there's this particular tonic, it itches me. The only thing I could take were the herbs, were the agbo, right? Dongoyaro, and all those kind of things, the bark of a mango tree, and all those kind of things. Fine. My brother, who is a medical doctor, will say it's dangerous because it's not regulated. Why can't we regulate it?
Yeah.
So with a glee on her face, with so much excitement, that there is a committee now that they are researching the herbs in Nigeria, right? The best, I think it's I don't know the name of the field where they do, they develop vaccines for viral, ailment, which is the guy is the best in the world, is a Nigerian, is a former chairman of INEC, Professor Iwu. If our story is that he had the cure, he got the cure of this coronavirus even before he came out, right? Even before he came out, because it's been known to exist before it started afflicting humans. So, there's so much here, and that unity that you mentioned is to recognize the uniqueness of every part. There is no part of this country that is not rich in their own way. But you see, there has been this thing that we inherited from the colonial masters, that they just must force us together. That tragedy that happened in 1914, to Nigeria has been a major problem, because we have not been able to, so the different parts of this country, and take that further, the different parts of Africa, they've not been able to realize their full potential so that we bring something to the table. Recently I was talking to I was having a class with a student of mine who is from Ethiopia, and I said, if we are going to prosper in Africa, we need to do proper both personal assessment of individual uniqueness and then communal assessment of community uniqueness, because each community in Africa, we have the potential to be so wealthy. I said, from where I sit in Nigeria and where he's sitting there in Addis, I can say that that once Ethiopia comes to mind, what comes to your mind is coffee, right? And I said that where I'm seated here also, we have coffee. I know someone in this city that we've spoken about before in this program. He exports coffee from the plateau. Export. And he says he can't meet his demands. That's how rich we are. But if you look at that business, what is the level of technology that's been deployed? How has that business, and I don't want to talk about support from government and all those kind of things, but because you can't talk about African culture without talking about the social, the economic, the cultural, and the political structure. All those things need to be put in that pot. So we still, if you, I think I give an example to you guys where we were off air maybe a few days ago, that if you are the most beautiful girl on campus, right? Or maybe you don't know you are the most beautiful girl on campus, but suddenly all the guys on campus are after you. Then it begins to tell you that, oh, maybe I'm the most beautiful girl on campus. Why was there a scramble for Africa? Why was Africa the most sought out, the bride,
the most attractive?
Everybody just want to cut this babe. There must be some, but it's as if those who don't live here, they know more than us, than we know about ourselves. And I've seen that across. Those who make money in Jos, for instance, don't live in Jos. Yeah. They just come, it's a hit and run. They don't live in Jos because we don't have responsible government who can say that if you are coming here to make money here, if I'm the governor of this state, right, and MTN makes billions of naira from this state every month, you are going to build me something. You are going to finish that stadium, right? You are going to build me maybe like an airport. You can't be making billions every month and it's just, the only thing you pay tax to the federal government. No way. You are using my space. There's something about my land. People come here for holidays. What kind of tax? How do we develop ASOP Falls?
Yeah.
Right? Those are the kind of, because you don't find that's our own uniqueness. How much does the weather here cost for those who come to enjoy it? Because you don't find it anywhere else. So these are the kind of thing, because this is a very huge topic, because maybe what we'll have done is to first of all put it on maybe language, put it on economic, put it on social, put it on costume and all those kind of things. To look at it on a very general level, you see, we'll just be hitting it from different parts, because the solution to the problems in Africa is that we must be able to develop African solutions to African problems. The problem in Nigeria can only be solved by Nigerian solution. Yeah.
Okay, sir, in line with what you just said now, I think early this year, the governor of Plateau State brought in experts, I would say consultants from one of the top consulting firms in the world, to give the government a roadmap, 20 years roadmap for the state. And what came to my mind was, these people don't even know us. They don't know our reality. Whatever they're going to give us.
These are foreigners?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's very thoughtless.
Yes. The name is, I can't recall the name now, but it's one of those top, I think the first 3, it's in that range.
Yeah.
And they just bring that. Now, sir, talking about the cultures in Africa, very diverse. How should the cultures be evolving without losing relevance, without and still maintaining our uniqueness?
cultures are highly adaptive. For example, we're talking about the monarchy here. The most, when you talk of revenue head, that is the source of revenue, revenue generation for the United Kingdom is the monarchy. The Buckingham Palace is top 5, I think so. The last time I checked, I think it was top 3 of the most visited place on earth.
Wow.
Yeah, the Buckingham Palace. Now, that is how the monarchy is still relevant. Right? People just want to go and see, just behold the majesty, the beauty of that palace. There's no way you go past the place, there is traffic. And you need to look at how much that is bringing into the economy. The spread that will feed the airline industry, it will feed the transportation industry locally. In fact, the whole tourism in London is built around the Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
When you ride on the train and you get to the stop that leads to the Buckingham Palace, it is announced that alight here for the Buckingham Palace. And you see how people will troop out and how people will troop in. So that is how monarchy, which is now in the UK just ceremonial, but it is still contributing huge, is still having huge economic effect. Huge economic effect. If you go to Addis, one of the places that you must visit, right, is the palace of the, I've forgotten the name of their king, the first king. I've forgotten the name, That's the place, and the whole thing has been so developed for tourism. So where is the emir, the emir's palace in Kano? What has been, how has that been built? Where is any kind of museum that can teach young people like you about the pyramids, the Granite Pyramid? Where is, those are the kind of things. So that particular culture can evolve. I'm not saying we should go back to monarchy system of government, but that system of government can still, remind us of our past and then shape, because really when you look at it, we are still not far from the monarchy, right? We still live in someone said that Nigeria, we are not in democracy, we're in civil rule, right? Because the president is still an all in all. Nigerian president is still one of the most powerful presidents on earth that you can't even talk to anyhow. So we are still not far from it. But cultures are highly, for example, if you look at East Africa, they don't teach them in English until they're in high school. They teach them in Swahili. But we have not developed our own language. I gave an example on this program once that what is crankshaft in Hausa? What's what's crankshaft in Yoruba? What's crankshaft in Igbo? We have not developed that language to be able to communicate current things, right?
Okay. Sir, talking and speaking about languages, we have about 250 ethnic groups and about 371 tribes in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that our languages are under-resourced.
Yeah, they're becoming
Yes.
It's almost non-existent.
Yes,
It's extinct.
yes.
Yeah.
So how can we save, these languages from being vanished?
There is no, I believe that in another 10 years, if we continue on this kind of trajectory, we're going to lose our languages. My own kids don't speak the dialect that I speak. Because if I teach them at home and they teach them in another language, in school, they'll be confused. And I have to be able to know what level. But because I have other things doing, not to teach language, right? Because those kind of things shouldn't be formal, So it's gonna. But there was a time in the history of mankind that the Hebrew language disappeared. It became extinct. One family started it again, just speaking it to the kids, and today it's a national language. If you go to South Africa They have 11 official languages. 11 official. That the president can address the nation in any of those languages. Now,
He has to be able to speak all of them. Wow.
Yeah. Most of them do. You know, you have the Swahili. No. Yeah, I think they speak Swahili. Do you have Afrikaans? They have what's the name of the one that Mandela speaks?
The Zulu.
There's Zulu. There's another one, Xhosa. Xhosa. You know. So they have plenty of it. Now, the president might not have to speak all, but depending on. But you know that most of the leaders in Nigeria, they speak the 3 main languages.
Sure.
Yeah, because they were soldiers. I remember a time Babangida visited a particular town in the southwest. He spoke Yoruba to them. Obasanjo speaks Hausa, and I'm very sure he speaks Igbo too. So, but this is because it's very good for leaders to be very strong in terms of language. But you see, over the years we have sort of relegated our language. We're no longer proud of it. If you speak your dialect, people kind of look at you. Maybe some of you, if you're in school and your parents come to visit, you would not want them to speak your dialect to you where your friends are. True? That's it. You see, it's as simple as that. And I always give that example. When I go out of this country and I'm in a public transport, only Africans speak English to their children. Indians are speaking their dialect. Chinese are speaking their dialect. It's only Ghanaians, Nigerians. They don't just speak English, they want to speak it the British way. It has to be British. And when you speak in that British way, you are perceived to be intelligent. You are perceived to be civilized. So these are the things that, just like that one family started, right? Somebody also can start. Somebody also can start and say, I'm going to be speaking my dialect to this kind of person. But the thing is, Nigeria, again, it brings us back to the main problem. It's where do we draw the lines? Where do we really draw the lines? If I start speaking Ijaw to my kids, right? How far will that go? How far will it go? Because Ijaw is just one drop in the ocean. Yeah, just one drop in the ocean. Because we must have a structure where we eliminate what we call minority.
True.
Yeah. For example, if we have a middle belt region, there's no minority.
Yeah.
There's no minority. If you have a middle belt region that contains the current Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, and maybe some parts of southern Kaduna. In fact, if you look at, say, which language is this? Idoma. They speak it across many states in this region. I think they speak in Adamawa, they speak in Taraba, they speak it in Benue, right? And there's some Idomas too, I think in Nasarawa also.
Yeah.
Or maybe Kogi. So you realize that there is the lines are already there, because nothing unites like language.
True.
I was telling my European students that if you go to the market and you happen to speak the same language with the seller, you can get a discount. Yeah. And they were saying, wow. I said, yes, you can. Language is powerful. It's powerful. And that's what has been used to colonize is language.
Yeah.
Do you know how many countries speak English? Almost all countries in the world speak English.
Yeah.
It's gradually that you cannot interview the French president, the German president in English. Meanwhile, they understand it. They speak it fluently, flawless. It's the reaction to that imperialist kind of tendency that we want to have our own kind of identity. There was something I said during the reign of Goodluck Jonathan, that if I am Mrs. Jonathan's PA, Mrs. Jonathan will never speak English in public. She will speak in pidgin.
Wow.
Yes. If you interview her, if you give her an interview in English, she will have to reply you in pidgin. I will not allow her speak English. That's the way I'll package her. Because that's what happens everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You talk to the Iranian president in English, somebody will interpret to let you believe that he doesn't understand, right?
Yeah.
But he speaks but he will reply you in the Iranian language. Right? So if you, like, many of them know this. For instance, the current president, the current governor of Ondo State, the immediate past governor of Osun State, they removed Mr. from their title. They put it in their local language. Yeah. He said it's not Mr. Aregbeshola, it's Ogbeni. That's what they say, that's how they call it. The one in Ondo State now, the Akeredolu, he said it's not Mr., it's Arakunri, that's a fellow brother. So this people know how powerful these things are, because you lose yourself the moment you lose your heritage, your identity, your there's nothing else. So those kind of things, gradually people just sort of nibble on it and just shrink back, but it has to be consistent. But we can't get this until this country is restructured. We keep coming back there. Restructured to reflect our cultural identity, traditional identity, language identity. Imagine a governor coming to talk to the people. When some politicians come here to campaign, or you go and campaign in Kaduna or Katsina, they speak in Hausa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Obasanjo, when he came,
Yeah.
he spoke.
He spoke in Hausa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's where you can really connect. Yeah. Many of you seated here, maybe your own generation, you guys are millennials, maybe you dream in English. I don't dream in English. Maybe until recently. Yeah, because I speak English more now. When I was growing up, I don't dream in English. I dream in my dialect. Because that's where I can't fake, I can't form. I'm original. Yeah. I'm authentic in the dreamland. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. When you dream, what language do you dream in? What language is spoken in that dream? Right? Yeah. What language? Few months ago, I dreamed and I saw my mom. She wasn't speaking English to me.
Of course.
She spoke the dialect to me. I saw my mom in my dream and she spoke the dialect to me. That's the way you can connect. There's a way you speak your language that you can't fake. Yeah, because the language has a move, it has a body posture, it has there's a way you gesticulate and all that. We need to be deliberate about this. And if there's any kind of problem, like I said, the fish starts getting rotten from the head, but the body too should try and, cooperate with the head. If your parents want to now keep speaking this language to you, will you, it's even better here in the north. If you go down south, many of them don't speak Yoruba. You still are, maybe you're kind of bilingual or bi-dialectical, but they don't. They don't speak it at all. If you speak it, then they look at you as if, where are you coming from? Because they believe that's civilization. Yeah. You guys are better in the north. Because I know most of you speak Hausa, right? Yeah. But you don't speak your dialect.
We do.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, we're going to go on a break and we'll be back for more. Stay with us.
This is Partridge Radio.
Yo, welcome back from the break. Before we went on a break, we were discussing reclaiming the African culture, and Dr. Reju said that it's a wide topic because we have culture, we have languages, we have dressing, we have food, we have the economy. There's a whole lot that is built in this topic, and it cannot be exhausted. So sir, coming back to Nigeria and our school system, in our schools they don't give us in-depth knowledge about our culture. Who is supposed to let Africans know about Africa? We have civic education and we have social studies, we have government, but I found out that some of the textbooks have been reviewed. There are a lot of African history. In fact, I don't know if we have history anymore. We used to have history differently. We used to have and then government.
Yeah, that's the way it was in my day.
You've just merged it together, and then a whole lot of key things have been taken out of it.
Yeah, again, the conspiracy theory, which I believe is that those things are deliberate, so that the young ones, the upcoming generation, will not really have a full understanding of our history, because it will lead to them asking some questions that the current generation might not be able to answer, but it's something that, those things are coming up, and it's just a matter of time. I'm very hopeful. It's a matter of time, because there are many documentaries now. There's a particular one that someone is planning to send to me to actually give a very supposedly credible kind of the story behind the Civil War. Because people have told that kind of story from different perspectives and all those kind of things. So it's when all those kind of things come to the table, right? We'll begin to really see. There's a saying that if you don't learn from history, you repeat it.
Yeah.
And most times you repeat the worst part of it. But if you learn from history, you know what to avoid, you know what to embrace. A nation, the time we took our students, and I think you are well aware of this, Joanne. When you go to high schools in America, their most equipped laboratory is their history lab. Is their history lab. The cascade that you guys visited is their history lab. That's most equipped with pictures, with documentaries, with all kinds, so that when we were taught the national pledge, it was with emotions. Yeah, it was with emotion. I remember the last time Brazil hosted the World Cup, and you see these young boys and girls that stand in front of the players, the mascots. There was a particular girl, when she was singing the Brazilian national anthem, she was shedding tears. The passion. But we've lost all that, because there's a way you can't say I love you in English and you will really mean it, because it's in the head, not in the heart, right? But if you're going to say I love you in your dialect to somebody who also speaks the dialect, it has, it's a bit different, because when hearts speak, yeah. So there are so many things that we cannot communicate. The president is addressing the nation in English. It would have been better if it's in Fufude, right? Because he can't communicate it properly.
And then someone should interpret. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's so many things. Now, like I said, I'm hopeful, because if you look at fashion, we've been able to. But even when you still sew our Ankara, our Dire, and all those, we still want to sew the Western.
Yeah.
We want to, we're losing all those kind of things, right? I made up my mind. Somebody that's coming to marry my daughter, you have to dress the way you just dress before I allow you to enter my house. Yes, you have to dress the way you just dress before I allow you to enter my house. That's why I know you really want to come and be part of us. Then when you take my daughter away, she'll have to dress the way you guys dress, right?
Yeah.
That's symbolic. It's symbolic. That's why I don't believe in all these weddings they do in mosques and churches. I don't believe in it. Wedding should be cultural, right? It should be cultural. Wedding should be between two families, not speaking one Baturi English and all those kind of things. We lose it. We're losing ourselves. But I, for one, because I so much believe in Africa, if I'm going to do things within my own space, it's going to have all the colors of Africa on it. It's going to have the signature of Africa on it. If I have a son that I'm going to get a wife for, it's going to be the African way. If I have a daughter that I'm going to give away, it's going to be the African way, right? If you want to, you do it the African way. You can go and add your own, go and wear whatever white dress you want to wear, or all this kind of thing. That I don't have any business with that. But within my little space, if every Nigerian would do that, if every Nigerian parent would do that within my space, either Muslim or Christian, right? Within my space, because religion is one of the things that actually eroded our culture.
Yeah.
Religion, especially Christianity, even Islam.
True.
I spoke to an Afghan, and he spoke about how they brought Islam to Afghanistan, right? And that the contention was, why are you trying to erode we had a way we worship before you guys came. Why don't you offer it to us? Why are you killing us so that we can do this? It's the same way they brought Christianity here. It's the same way they brought Islam here. We had a life. You see, that must be the tagline. We had a life before colonization. And if the whole world wants to come and colonize Africa, that means there's something about us. We need to take another look at it and begin to value it, because we can look at it now. People, someone that I buy, slippers from, is now using, adire as the top, to design it. Those things are good. I've seen the biggest gift you can give to a Westerner is African print.
Yeah,
they love it because it's beautiful. It cuts across. If you appreciate beauty, right, you will love Africa. There's no way. But Africa did, if that, my example of that young, pretty girl on campus, if she doesn't know, every boy on campus will have a pass at her, and she will become a relic. That's what's happening to Africa. Africa has been raped. It's still being raped. So that's what's happening. But if that girl knows that, why is everybody coming? There must be something about me. If you look at it economically, right, even if it's in terms of reparation alone, Ethiopia should become a wealthy nation.
Yeah.
Because the biggest coffee shop in the world, Starbucks, should be owing Ethiopia billions of dollars because they got the coffee from Ethiopia.
True.
There are many things they've taken from here too. Malaysia got their palm oil, the palm fruit from Nigeria. Yeah, they got it from here. Is there any kind of royalty?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of royalty on that? Because we don't patent these things. So if you don't value it, people trample on it. If you put a goat on your beautiful sofa at home, right? It will pee on it, it will poo on it. Because the goat can't value the expensive sofa, because the goat is not meant for the sofa.
Yeah.
You that put the goat on it should be blamed. So if anyone is coming to Africa to come and, if what we have attracts you, you pay. So you see, these are the kind of things. I think my advice to you guys, maybe on this topic is, let's break it down. Let's Let's look at, do you want to focus on language? Do you want to focus on the economy? Do you want to focus on traditional practices and things like that? And let's take it bit, and then we want to focus on maybe the system of governance. Let's take it bit, because this is a very, very important topic, especially for millennials. Because if you don't do that here and you go out there, they'll buy you at any price.
True.
Because you don't have anything to negotiate with. That's the problem. The reason Africa is poor is because we got disconnected from ourselves. We lost ourselves. We underpriced ourselves. And many countries in Africa are already getting that back. It's impossible for us to do that in Nigeria, because there is no Nigeria. We have to come back there. There's nothing called Nigerian culture.
True.
It doesn't exist. That's why it's impossible to love Nigeria. Nigeria does not exist, right? You can love the Yoruba nation. You can love the Idoma nation. You are more Angas than Nigeria.
True.
When you say Angas, there's a picture. When you say Nigeria, the only thing you see is a map. It doesn't exist.
There's some lines to
and some lines that confuse further. So until that's done, until that is done, look at the speech that made headlines this week. Anthony Joshua, you guys saw it?
No, I didn't.
He addressed, he gave a speech at the Commonwealth Conference in London, and he said, I am Anthony Joshua. He mentioned his Yoruba names. I am Yoruba and I'm also British, and that we need to promote that. I cannot lose my Nigerian Yoruba-ness. I need to combine the two. And he ended that speech by saying that, I wish you all the best with the fish and chips, the pounded yam, and the egusi soup.
Wow.
Because fish and chips is the English menu, and the egusi soup and pounded yam is the Yoruba. It's also, those are the kind of things, because he's talking from a background that he's doing well. That's why you put me here, because there was a time he had some legal issues. They called him a Nigerian. Now is the heavyweight boxing champion of the world is British.
Yeah.
That's always the case. It's a reminder that we are someone first, where you come from, even within themselves. So tribalism is not unique to Nigeria. When Andy Murray loses a match, they call him a Scot. That's when he's Scottish. When he wins, he's British. So it's not only us. So we shouldn't think that we have a special problem. Tribalism is what is wrong. Being tribal is so good. Very good.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So when you were talking about the history of Africa, how we need to get it right, what came to my mind was a book I read. I can't recall the title now. It was a collaboration between a Yoruba historian and a Western historian. I think that was the most accurate history book I've ever read, because I was balanced.
Yeah.
But most of the books we read about Africa, or that say something about Africa, most of them are written by the West.
Yeah.
And the ones written by Africans reference those
That are written by the West.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do we try to get balance, that what I'm reading, I know that there are some maybe historical bias.
There's no book you read. You have to read. That's why the phrase says read between the lines. Yeah, read between the lines. There's a kind of an African history that's unique, that's organic, that's natural with you, which you know, right? By just interacting with your parents.
True.
Yeah. So if you are reading, make sure you are not reading to just consume. Make sure whatever you read, make sure you read to engage. You know, I've always taught you guys that when you watch a movie, don't just consume, engage. You know, just interact. Try to find out, why is he saying that? Well, you know, I told you the story that I had with Black Panther. Black Panther wasn't even written by an African. Yeah. You know, so the whole thing is and everyone that writes a book, that produces music, that, you know, produce a movie, there's something it's trying to communicate to you. But Africans have been taught, especially with colonialism, to be consumers of culture, not creators of it. You know, so we need to unlearn that and now be able to, you know, create culture. And when you say creation, it's without stress. Creation is different from making. Creation is you're just trying to express what's there. To make is to use what's there into another shape. You know, but creation is just a natural thing. I just want to be me. Right? I just look at all this. Africa too just latch on to the debate about feminists, look at the International Day of the Woman, which I believe that until we accurately define the place of the woman, the female gender, the world will continue to have problems. But in that definition, we must not back out the tradition, because the African woman is different from the European woman.
Yeah.
We can't use one brush to put in.
Yeah.
But the African woman wants to be like a European woman. When the African woman talks about freedom, it must be African freedom, not European freedom. There's a way the African woman relates with a husband, right? Which is different from the way the Western woman relates with a husband.
True.
Right? So it's those things, if it's not there, all these young African ladies will become westernized, and then they will still be looking for something. It is this same Africa. In Nigeria here, you want the woman to be well read, go for it, pursue your career and everything, blah blah blah. By the time the woman is now well read, they come back, you are not married. You are not married. You bring an idiot of a boy home, and you marry the idiot, because we are neglecting the men.
Yeah.
We are neglecting the boys in trying to promote the woman, and it's the same us that we want this woman to marry this boy that we have not developed, and we tell the woman to submit to him. So it's human development, not gender.
True.
It's both and, not either or. Because what I hear, the sound bites, is the greatest lie ever told. What a man can do, a woman can do. That's a lie. It's a big lie. What a woman can do, a man cannot do. What a man can do, a woman cannot do, because they are different. They are different. When we say equality, again, let's color it with culture. Because the moment you bring culture, tradition to it, you say African and you put woman, I think we need to go and listen to Fela again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to go and listen. So the moment you say Africa and woman, the woman is already on the defensive. You are trying to take something away from me here. You see, these are we need to bring all the factors into the pot. Into the pot. Because when you really, you the woman, you the man, when you really look at the mirror, who do you see? When you look at the mirror, who do you see? Because you have all the achievement out there, by the time you get home, there's still a massive vacuum in your mind, in your heart. All those things need to be put there. You know, so maybe another day we'll discuss this. Maybe because in International Day of Women, maybe we should have spoken about women, but it's okay. Because we can talk about the African culture and put the woman issue in the mix. In that particular mix, yeah.
Well, okay, sir. So it seems we have a lot of issues with our foundation.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to say it's too late for some adults already, but then how can the young people who find themselves in the present narrative detach themselves from this? Because it's very hard to understand whatever Africa was before now, and we've been exposed to something different. So there's always that struggle. We're trying to find ourselves, and then we're confused. So how can we actually detach ourselves?
There are loads of resources out there. Loads of resources. So it's going to take a lot of self-education first. So it begins with your person. If you value this, if you guys value this enough to make it a topic on this program, then you want to do a lot of self-study. And I can tell you there are loads and loads of information out there. You don't find them in academic books, but there are a lot of materials on YouTube. So it's self-education. Will you go ahead and learn, understand your own kind of language, and then what do you want to bequeath? Someone like you, maybe when you get married and you have kids, do you want to also do what your parents did for you, that made you speak your dialect? Do it for them. That's how you sustain it, right? So it's very, very important that you do self-education, and that's going to take a lot, because the things you're going to be learning won't come out in your exams. So it's for personal development, right? You want to, because I speak English better than English people, because for me it's a subject that I must pass in an exam, right? They don't speak good English. I speak the grammar, right? They speak English. Their tenses are wrong academically, but it's their language. Yeah. They are allowed to speak it the way they want. Right?
They can't write it the way they want.
They can't write it. That's the point. I had an F9 Yoruba, which is when I did my school cert, because I can't write it well. But that's a shame. I should be able to write it. Yeah. I can write it, but I can't write it well. If I really sit down, I can write a letter in Yoruba to my daughter. If I really sit with it, it's going to be a struggle. If they're listening to this, they will say, no way. Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot to take in, and there is actually more. We're going to restructure the topic again, and
you're going to go through restructuring.
Yes, and come back with more questions for you, sir.
Okay.
But there's something we need to learn today, and you keep saying it on this program. You say we need to unlearn to learn.
Yeah. We
need to decolonize our minds. There's a whole lot in Africa that we need to know. If we do not know, then we will not know how to we won't know how to behave. We won't know how to operate. We won't know how to live and communicate with people, in and outside, the borders of Nigeria or Africa. This is how much you can take on the program. Thank you so much for, coming to the studio today, sir. We are very grateful, and I'm really grateful for to you people, Joan and Joseph. Thank you so much. We're going to meet again, same time, same station next week. Bye.
This is Partridge Radio.